Up until this point, Dark Side of the Ring has not disappointed. I finished up season one, and I am right now about to give you my thoughts on episode five of season two, entitled Jimmy Snuka and the Death of Nancy Argentino. Now, this is something that don't know if a lot of people back in that during that time even knew about it. You know, as I don't recall until years later that something like this happened. That someone, a girlfriend of Jimmy Snuka, passed away, and he was suspected as the one that killed her. Although he got off, and he really didn't have to deal with any kind of court, you know, appearances or you know being convicted of anything until years later, of course. But this episode really shined a light on Jimmy Snuka, who was one of the you know biggest superstars during this time. In fact, they were looking to really push him and really make him their number one superstar. But his bouts with cocaine and his drug addiction and all that kind of put a stop to that. And it may have been something that fueled his anger and fueled his always having to abuse Nancy Argentino. Now, in this episode, we saw her two sisters being interviewed. We've seen Tama Tonga, who was known as the Tongan Kid back in the day, and I remember him. I believe he was the one that was with Haku in the Islanders. If I'm not mistaken, because he has another brother that looks just like him. So I don't know, and he's just a brother of Haku. I mean, not Haku, but of Kishi, if I'm not mistaken. But they talk about the situation and the circumstances surrounding her death. Jimmy Snuka, was of course in WWF at the time. Nancy Argentino met him through another friend of hers. She had a friend that was engaged to be married to Johnny Rodz, a wrestler who went on to train a number of wrestlers, namely and famously the Dudley Boys. And I believe Taz, I'm not mistaken, because he always brings him up. He always brings Johnny Rodz up. But they met and they fell in love and they started dating. Buddy Rogers was the handler of Jimmy Snuka, but he couldn't handle Jimmy Snuka because he was out of control. His drug use. He was even using cocaine while Buddy Rogers was driving around. He couldn't take it, so he told Vince McMahon he can't do it anymore. Then Nancy Argentino was the one who ended up driving him everywhere, taking care of everything, his bookings, making sure that he was there, checking dates, all that. Now, the sister knew right away that he was bad news and said for her to leave him. But when it comes to love, I guess sometimes love is blind, and she didn't want to leave him. I guess she saw something good in him and she decided to stay. Another one of those what ifs. What if she left Jimmy Snuka, right? And maybe she would have been alive still. But the way that she passed away was really shrouded in mystery. Kind of like the story of Jimmy Snuka, that what he gave him was kind of like, he says that they were wrestling around in the motel room and she bumped her head. She was still alive. She was still okay. So he told her to go to sleep, lay down, and then he was going to go to a wrestling taping. And then when he comes back, she's barely hanging on. And then, she ends up dying. He ends up calling the police and tells them the story. And then he says, well, actually we went for a drive. And she would need to go to the bathroom. She went out. And then Jimmy Snuka said to come back in because, there's trucks coming. And she slipped and hit her head on the pavement. Now, the thing about Jimmy Snuka, and didn't bring it up, but I have heard that if someone has a head injury, you don't tell them to go to sleep. You have to keep them awake. You have to because that's the wrong thing to do when someone has a head injury. I've heard that before, and that's the mistake that Jimmy Snuka did. He probably didn't mean to kill her. He probably didn't, but him always being rough with her and throwing her around, dragging her by her hair, and pretty much beating on her. I mean, those times maybe he was looking to really, really hurt her. And maybe this is the one time, that he didn't mean to kill her. But that's opened up to, you know, just, to interpretation. Like, did he? Didn't he? How many years later, decades later, in 2000, 2000 what, 2012, 2014, around that time. Well, that was 2012 when these guys who were looking to do a documentary about the 30th anniversary of her death, and they were able to, because of a civil lawsuit by the family, they were able to get the autopsy reports and all that stuff. They couldn't do that with the official report because it was sealed up. This one wasn't, so they could look at it, and even the coroner's last words pretty much said that this should still be investigated, further, possibly, investigated as a possible murder. Jimmy Snuka was brought to court. There was enough evidence to arrest him, but a month earlier, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he was deemed unfit to stand trial because of, dementia and all that, according to his defense attorney. And so they pretty much let him go. The family brought up a civil lawsuit, but they won $500,000, but Jimmy Snuka never paid a cent. And I'm pretty sure he was getting paid pretty damn good back in the day. But then again, not at this time. Maybe during his heyday, yeah. But at this time, who knows? He was on a Legends contract, if I'm not mistaken, with WWE. So I'm sure they were giving him money every month. But the guy who was the police chief, this dude was stammering, was stuttering, looking around, and there was accusations that Vince McMahon may have paid the police off because he kind of met with them and then he came out with a briefcase. I don't know what that meant. But the cop kind of looked like he may have been guilty of covering up something, because the police chief, I should say, because they actually said something in the documentary. They were interviewing him, and then they kind of caught him in a lie. They kind of caught him, and he started stammering. He started going, well, like he knew he was caught. Like something was there, I had to watch it again because even when I watched it, I just didn't get what he said, but you could tell that he was caught, saying something that they didn't bring up, or he was caught in a lie. And, in other words, the guy looked shady. Hamatonga is even talking about how they, on that ride, he was in the car with them. On that ride where she got out and she slipped and hit her head. And he talked about how they were just chilling, talking to each other, and they end up going to the hotel and they go their separate ways. So maybe Snuka's other version, the fact that he said he was in the hotel with her and wrestling and it got out of control and she hit her head, maybe that's what it was. But the thing about Jimmy Snuka, I remember when I started watching WWF, and he was one of the top stars, and the guy really was so phenomenal, man. He was like one of the best, like a guy who was like ahead of his time when it came to high flying. The guy, you talk to, if you listen to stories by Mick Foley, who played, of course, it's Mankind, Cactus Jack, and Dude Love and all that. But he said that his first, the first time that he ever said that he wanted to be a wrestler was when he saw Jimmy Snuka jump off the top of the cage. And they showed that match. It was there was that match with him and Don Morocco. And I believe it was for the Intercontinental title. He lost. He didn't win. I think there was some chicanery that happened or something that cheated him out of the title. And then he ends up getting Morocco on his back, and he goes to the top and he dives and hits his Superfly Splash. You know, it's one of those things where it's a shame because the guy was just an amazing performer, and it's shrouded in controversy because of the accusations and that possibly he did kill Nancy Argentino. Like I said, possibly it was a an accident. He didn't mean to. You know, because sometimes people will be in a fight and they don't mean it to happen and something happened, but still, regardless of what anybody will say, he may have gotten away with murder. He's passed away now. He died, I believe it was 2014, something like that. And we'll never know. We'll never know. He actually went to his grave, pretty much knowing what happened. I like to remember him as the guy who, like I said, would always kneel in the ring, putting up you know, the Superfly sign. He does this stuff, and Tamatanga said it was his way of honoring his fans. The way he would do that and dive off the top rope, the top turnbuckle, and land that splash. And his daughter is Tamina Snuka, who does that same move in honor of her dad. Sam Snuka, who was Deuce. You remember that tag team Deuce and Domino? Right? Yeah, he was one of those guys, and didn't even know that he was his son. And he leaves behind a legacy and his kids, and who also can't forget his theme song. Whenever you hear that Superfly, that Superfly, that part really gets everybody going, everybody up off their feet. But him and Morocco, that was like the best rivalry that he had. It was great. They worked well together, and they really, fed off each other when it came to wrestling in the ring and their rivalry. Been a long rivalry too. They played it out, unlike today, where rivalries are done in a month or so. But and they do it well back then too. Not now. Not like now. I wish they would. But anyway, overall, in the end, it is what it is when it comes to Superfly Snuka. Is in regards to the situation, in regards to his girlfriend, Nancy Argentino, who unfortunately passed away at a very young age. She was now only 23 years old. Her parents, her sisters, I don't know if her parents are alive anymore, but her sisters were in this, and they are still bitter. They know that they are never ever going to get closure. They tried. There was a little bit of satisfaction because he did finally get taken to court, but then they weren't able to go through with the trial because of his dementia, because of his stomach cancer. And in the end, he just looked like a really just sad, old man, shell of his life. Shell of his former self, I should say. And you started feeling sorry for the guy because of his condition. You don't forget what he may have done. But it's at the point where it was just like he was sickly at the end, and they weren't going to get nothing really out of it. No real justice, and that's sad. But again, another great episode of Dark Side of the Ring. This was season 2, episode 5, entitled Jimmy Snuka and the Death of Nancy Argentino. It's something that we've all WWD and WWF wrestling fans know, and we heard of the story. We know the particulars, but even in this episode, they still brought up some stuff that were like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even know about that." But that's what this show has done. It's really great, and they could just continue going on. There's so many types of stories like this in wrestling, other types of stories as well. It could easily keep going season to season. It's a great show, great. And those of you who are watching this video and you've never watched any of these, go check it out. Every one of these so far are great, and the ones that I've seen that are coming up, I'm really, really excited to watch them. I'm doing this week to week so that I could have something to do every week on this particular day. I like doing this, and instead of binging it and watching it all at once, because it's all available, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep it going and, have time to do my other stuff on my channel and other things that I'm doing as well. So, But anyway, that's my video on latest episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done, and definitely shines a little more on the story surrounding Jimmy Snuka and Nancy Argentino. Well, that's my video, and for those of you who stopped by and checked it out, I appreciate it. And in closing, as always, take care. Please remember to subscribe, click like, and click the bell icon for all notifications on this channel.